Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this statement is to update Parliament on the impact of Tropical Cyclone Winston to the FEA power system and an update on the restoration. Madam Speaker, despite the delays caused by the further tropical depressions and continued heavy rainfall, the progress in which all stakeholders have come together to restore electricity services is commendable. Madam Speaker, in past, for example, after Cyclone Eric and Nigel in 1985, the restoration to full power took over 9 months. I don't know which government was at that point in time. Post a Category 5 cyclone, Madam Speaker, we are on the road to full recovery within 6 months. The CEO of FEA has assured that by the end of August this year, we will be back to full power service delivery across Fiji. Madam Speaker, it has not all been plain sailing, as the extent of infrastructure damage impinges on recovery and rebuilding work in all areas. FEA recovery and rebuilding work has been carried out within this larger exercise, and we need to take stock of that point. Madam Speaker, let me provide an overview of the major damages before I move to an update on the rebuilding and recovery process. The public and members of this Honourable House are only well aware of the extent and nature of damage inflicted by TC Winston. In relation to FEA power infrastructure damage included water, structural damage due to high winds and rain, and again, water and wind damage to technology. Among generation assets damage were power stations from Wailoa to Nendi, Nendi to Vunda, Vunda to Lavuka, Lavuka to Nandarivatu campsite to Rekireki. In short, Madam Speaker, almost all of Fiji was affected. Madam Speaker, the next area of damage was to transmission assets, and again, this was extensive and along the corridor outlined above, as well other areas all over Fiji. This is an important area of electricity service delivery and one where rebuilding will take additional time due to the nature of these structures. Rebuilding electricity towers is not an overnight task, and work on this will roll over into 2017, even as full power is restored. Sub-transmission lines, Madam Speaker, are the nerve center for our electricity supply, and once again, we suffered extensive damage in this area. Fortunately, we saw that due to the underground cabling in the central division, damage was minimized in some areas, and as a result, some of these areas were brought back into circuit by mid-February. Madam Speaker, once again, this reinforces the need to roll out more areas of underground cabling. The object would be that over a 10 or 15-year period, we will cover most of Fiji in this manner. Madam Speaker, the point of recovery and rebuilding is also about rethinking. And in this regard, I support the words of the Acting Prime Minister and Honourable Minister of Finance for suggesting that the path forward is to have more and more underground cabling. In a cyclone-prone zone, we can ill afford to continue investing in old technology and practice. The initial capital cost is recouped from underground cabling over 10 to 15 years. In fact, the removal of the poles and above-ground cables also removes an eyesore. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, compounding the extensive damage in the Western and Northern Division to sub-transmission lines was that they were mostly above ground. This led to longer delays before these areas could put back into circuit. Ba and Tabua energized in mid-March, and other areas followed soon after. Zone substation assets as outlined in the report by FEA, again gives a clear picture of the extensive damages. Temporary repairs had to be effected in order to restore supply to the focus, and now is in permanent repairs and rebuilding capacity. Madam Speaker, in this regard, the shared electricity and telecommunication infrastructures also suffered extensive damage. Again, water and wind damage was to towers, buildings, cablings, and antennas, among other things. And again, the spread of the damage mirrored the extent of the damage inflicted by TC Winston to the various areas. Damages to the optic fiber cables requires extensive digging, and this accounts for some of the damaged areas still under repair. However, for the most part, these have been repaired and are back to full service. Madam Speaker, the extent of the damage by the TC Winston is carried out by the damages sustained to the various distribution power network around Fiji. These range from a low 10% in some areas of the central division, like Suba and Navua, to the highest between 60 to 80% in areas like Ba, Tavua, Reki, Sabu Sabu, and Labuka. Works were carried out, and according to the following priority areas: hospitals, water pumping and treatment plants, CBD areas, commercial and industrial areas, and then to the residential areas. The focus has been an orderly and timely restoration, given the extensive damage faced and delays due to ongoing uncertain weather over the past hurricane season. Madam Speaker, we are grateful for the immediate nature of overseas assistance in the recovery efforts in the power service sector. The New Zealand government-sponsored line mechanic team totaling 20 workforce carried out work in the Vatukola and in Ba. Likewise, Madam Speaker, the ADB-sponsored team from Tonga Power Limited helped efforts in the line restoration work. And just these few days saw the arrival of 7 heavy goods vehicles to assist with the restoration work. I commend the Australian Government and the Energy Network Association of Australia for the donation, as well as over Australian $270,000. The team from India, Madam Speaker, 4 engineers are currently compiling their report, and this will use to map future mitigation. Madam Speaker, the total repair bill is over $30 million as restoration, rebuilding, and recovery works moves towards its targeted completion at the end of August 2016. As of today, Madam Speaker, the whole of the Northern Division, including the heavily damaged areas in Sabu Sabu and Tavuni, has been energized. The Central Division, which escaped much of TC Winston, was among the earliest areas restored to full power. The Eastern Division, including greater parts of Overloud, has been restored with only parts of rural Overloud left, with work projected to be completed by August 2016. Likewise, Madam Speaker, the lesser affected areas in the Western Division are already energized, with only Ba, Tavua, Nandari Vatu, and Reki rural areas left to be full back on the power grid for the projected completion date of August 2016. Madam Speaker, as we can see from this statement on energy service restoration, work has moved along in a constructive manner, despite various unavoidable delays, mainly due to the prolonged cyclone depression this past season. The work undertaken by the various arms of the FEA and our overseas aid partners need to be commended for continuing to work in testing conditions. Madam Speaker, another area that we will be rethinking will be our process in the vital area of stakeholders' cooperation and linkage, that is between FEA, Water Authority of Fiji, and FRA. There is already a code of practice in place, Madam Speaker, for these entities. We cannot have the whole mentality of a ad hoc process that address one issue and create problems in 5 or 6 other areas. Those days are well past. We will focus on rebuilding in ways that are sustainable and that will be better able to withstand the forces of nature. Madam Speaker, I thank the House for listening to the statement on post-TC Winston recovery and updates in the power service sector under FEA. Thank you.